Welcome, friends. This is Ed, and welcome to Ed Hartman's Wild World of Music and Film, Season 2, Episode 2. Yeah, there we go. So, having great conversations with filmmakers, and who knows where this is going to go in the future, if it'll move to other elements of filmmaking. I did do a conversation with a cinematographer, and I may do some chats with some composers. But my primary goal is to meet other filmmakers. And as I've moved from being just a composer to also producer and director now, I'm learning a lot about this stuff. So it's really, really cool to meet folks. So I have on today Andrew de Burgh. Is that correct? How I pronounce it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. It's not Burgh, it would be Burgh, I think, right?
Burgh, yeah.
Okay, all right. And Andrew did a wonderful film called The Bestowal, and I watched that last night, along with some of his other shorts, and holy cow, that's a film. that is not a light film. I mean, you have to just power through it, man. It's a great movie, but you are. And I understand your motive of why and how you did it that way. I have a feeling we'll find out. So, but very nicely made. I mean, really, all elements were there. It reminded me of a few films that we'll talk about as we move forward in there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My short critique would be My Dinner with Death. So,
yeah.
I'm probably not the first one to coin that one. Or maybe My Dinner with God, your choice. Anyway, so welcome, and you're doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the kind words about the film. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching it as well.
Yeah. Well, I've decided if I'm going to do this, I got to watch some movies. It's a good excuse. And I'm seeing films I honestly wouldn't have seen, just because there's so many things out there. You got to find these things. And you are on Indie Rights, which I am on too. So we are in common on that one.
That's great. Yeah, they're really cool people.
How did I connect with you? Was that through, where did I find you? I don't remember.
Was it LinkedIn or Facebook?
Maybe, yeah, there we go. I think it was through that. And I had been, when I first started the podcast, I'd been reaching out through Indie Rights people because I knew they had stuff in distribution. So Indie Rights is a really interesting distributor that it's kind of do-it-yourself. You kind of have to do your own promotion and stuff like that. But they do a nice deal, and they do a good job in general. So
yeah, they're very nice, ethical people, and they're very helpful, like with guys and stuff.
Yeah. No, there's a tremendous amount of information. You get overwhelmed by it very quickly. You have to power through each one of those documents, and they're not obvious. I mean, there are things going on there that are options, and anyway. So I guess the way I kind of have formatted this thing is to kind of have a list of questions, and there's nothing formal about it. Anyway, so we'll start off with numero uno, which is, where are you from and where are you living now? We don't need a street address. I'm just curious, quadrant, country, state.
Yes, I'm originally from the United Kingdom. I was born in the West Midlands, a place called Shropshire. So I spent a lot of my childhood in England, also lived in India and Spain, and I moved to the US in 2006. So right now I'm in Southern Orange County. So yeah, I've been in LA for many years as well. During the pandemic, been more in Orange County. So yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Well, I will be at my mini documentary, It Gets in Your Blood, which is about the guy who did As the Earth Turns, which is on Amazon and Tubi, and it's going to be on Turner Classic Movies.
Oh, congratulations.
On Halloween at 9:00 Pacific. Is that crazy? Anyway, if hopefully this will be on before that. And the documentary about him, Richard Lyford, is going to be at the Silicon Beach Film Festival. And I just figured this out over the weekend. It's going to be on Sunday, October 3rd at 2 p.m. at the TCL Chinese Theater at Hollywood and Highland.
Congratulations, man.
Is that crazy? And
It's pretty rad.
Yeah. It's just a short doc. It's going to be ahead of a big doc about a beauty and products magnet. So it'll be an interesting day. But anyway, I'm going to try and get down there and see that. So I'll have a report about that. But anyway, you're invited if you happen to be in Hollywood that
Thanks.
day.
Yeah, I'll definitely try and come if I can.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild film. Anyway, but enough about that. So, what was your journey, as we say in the business? What did you start and why?
I guess like from a young age, I was always into acting. I was doing theater in school, and I did some voiceovers for cartoons when I was living in Spain. So I guess acting was my first love. I was inspired a lot by movies, and so I thought acting could be like my way into the industry, and so I was very passionate about that. I think around 2015, I directed my first short film, Just One Drink, and I kind of realized that directing and writing, producing was more what I wanted to do. It was like my true calling. So I've kind of focused on that since then.
That's an intense little movie. I watched that.
Thank you.
You have a dark mind.
Yeah, I can do.
Yeah. No, intense little film. There's a theme going through your movies, actually. I won't give it away, but no, that's cool. It's well made. That wasn't the same. The gal in that wasn't the same person. I don't think it was a different. I can't.
She was in Hostel. She was the main villain in Hostel.
Oh, okay, all right.
Barbara Nelajakova. She was Natalia in Hostel.
Wow. Okay.
So she's got a pretty big name in like the horror world, the Scream Queen.
Yeah. So when you did that film, I mean, what process did you do to do it? You just decide to do it because you're in that, right? Is that
yeah?
You're with somebody else, and you write it just to kind of as a spec script, and then did you have to raise money for it, or did you just kind of do it for whatever?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty low budget. I still raised money through like friends and family. I actually wrote that initially so I could have like a role in a short film. I was getting like work as an actor in Hollywood, like smaller roles here and there, but I wanted something like more meaty, something I could like really dig my teeth into as a performer. So I wrote a kind of a role for myself, and my initial goal was actually to have someone else direct the film so I could focus on acting. But I met with quite a few directors, and I realized that directors didn't have the vision I had for it.
Yeah.
Even though they were a lot more experienced and more talented than me. So I decided I decided to direct it myself, and in hindsight, it was a good decision for me.
Yeah, I haven't, I directed myself in a short pandemic film for the Roger Corman first and last, hopefully last pandemic film festival that was on Facebook. It came out pretty well. It actually won a little award at a local film festival over the weekend. All you could use was your phone and your immediate household objects and people. It was right in the middle of the pandemic, and that was the first time I really kind of.
I'd love to see it.
Well, it's on YouTube, so it's called Into the Known. Anyway, yeah, I'll send you links. And Ed Hartman music, all that stuff's on there. But anyway, that was really kind of the first time I kind of pushed to another level for me. Now, as a kid, I was into Super 8 films. I still have those cameras, but I went into music, and now I'm coming back into filmmaking now. My third act, as we say. So
that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Now, but you did some corporate stuff. Was that before that or after?
It was sort of in between. Like I've done commercials and promos. It's like a good way to kind of flex your filmmaking skills. Similar process, hiring actors with scripts and this and that. So yeah, it's been good. My main passion is independent film. Right now I'm actually trying to fundraise for a Bollywood Hollywood revenge thriller. It's a feature that I'm trying to launch very passionately, but
wow,
it's tough,
Yeah, that could be big. So, and when you're doing the commercial stuff, were you a producer as well as director? I mean, did you work for other companies, or did you just do it as a freelance?
Mostly freelance, like mostly just directing, but occasionally I would do some producing work as well.
Huh. How'd you make the contacts for that?
So
Was that just through?
this was like when I was actually living. I was living in Mumbai actually, so I kind of just got lucky meeting people.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't do too much. I'm trying to do more of it actually now. It's like a good way to kind of shoot stuff and
Was
stay
the
active.
was the One Drink, was that done overseas or was that done in the U.S.?
No, that was shot in LA actually.
That's what I thought.
That was shot in Hollywood, like
Okay.
2015, I think.
So you probably do a lot of traveling, it sounds like.
I used to, not really anymore. I mean, with the pandemic, I haven't really done any in the last 2 years, as I'm sure a lot of people haven't either.
Little tough.
Yeah, it's been a difficult time actually, brutal.
Yeah. Well, you have to get incredibly creative at this point. I mean, the beauty of the little film I did was mostly research and documentation of images and video and stuff like that and clearances. So and a little bit of interviews from the festival I was at before pandemic. So I was able to do that all completely during this period. So there's a thought. You can always you can always do like archival documentary stuff anytime.
Yeah, it's creative ways, right? Like that's great you did that though.
Yeah, I actually got very busy. I mean, what's funny about this little festival? It's up at Tulalip Tribe. I've done it for the last few years, and they're really nice and they just love giving out awards. So I had submitted the documentary, and they didn't take that. It's been a 95 festivals, and they didn't take it, which is fine. But they took. I submitted a bunch of my little music videos, which I'd been doing. I didn't realize I had done all these music videos over the pandemic, which were sometimes using footage I had done, sometimes just kind of Pixabay, things like that. They took 8 of my music videos. So I have like 9 award certificates from that. But those were all done things I did on just little mini trips around here, and I'm just using a Nikon cheap consumer camera and my phone.
I mean, that's great that you've stayed busy and motivated. It's been a tough time.
Well, and I teach music and music business. I also teach music licensing. So and that's been really good because a lot of my work has been music for films placed in movies as well. Awesome. Besides scoring, anyway. Okay. So, and what was the motive? I mean, so you were an actor, and then you wanted to get behind the camera. But what brought you into film at all? I mean, acting or filmmaking. What was the thing that made that happen? Going back maybe further.
Yeah, I mean, I think like going back to my early childhood, I remember like just being obsessed with films. I think the first film I saw in a theater was Dumb and Dumber, which is actually one of my all-time favorite films to this day. And yeah, I mean, I grew up. My dad used to take me to movies, and I was just even as a kid, like in middle school, I used to go with my friends. Like movies was like one thing I wanted to do. The magic of the big screen with the sound and the huge screen, and that sort of camaraderie that people are sat there all watching a film together, and it was just magical to me as a kid, and that's kind of kept me going.
What I'm trying to make sense of this, because the Bestowal is one of the most intellectual things I've ever seen. And you're telling me you love Dumb and Dumber. I can't even put them in the same universe in my head, But maybe there's something deeper to Dumb and Dumber that I'm missing. You tell me.
I think it's a very clever script, actually. I think it's genius, comedy genius.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm not disagreeing. It wasn't the first movie that would have come to mind from what you did your film. I would have expected Interstellar, No,
actually, that's also one of my all-time favorite films, Interstellar. That was a big inspiration for the Bestowal. I don't know if I mentioned that.
I think I saw a note about it. I'll tell you something. The film that came to mind watching yours, you're going to have to dig this up. I am sure you have not seen this movie because it's really hard to find out there. It's called This Quiet Earth, and it's Australian made. And I think it was in the 80s, and I saw it in the theaters. And this is a weird movie, but it's kind of got a similar vibe. It's got a little more, action out and about, but it's kind of three last people on the planet sort of thing, and it's oh man, even the ending is somewhat similar to yours. I mean, in a certain sense. So you'll have to do a little digging on that. You'll enjoy it. It blew me away. Ever since I've seen it, I've been trying to track it down, and it has starting to appear on streaming networks. But boy,
Thank you. I'm looking it up. It's on Tubi, so I can definitely see it.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, wild movie, cool score too. I love everything from Australia and especially New Zealand. You know, like What We Do in the Shadows and that whole thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a good film. Take Away Titi, right? I think. That one.
Yeah, and there's a whole series now that they've done, which is great. It's on FX network. It's amazing. And there's another one I just saw. It's this hilarious spoof on a couple of policemen that are into they wind up looking into supernatural stuff, but it's the same Flight of the Conchords guy and Takeda, whatever. Anyway, amazing films that are coming out. It was New Zealand made. There's a really dry sense of humor down there that's just hilarious.
It's like the UK. The UK's got a very dry sense of humor as well.
Yeah, it's true. All right. So that's the why. And so going back to your youth on there. And other films that kind of come to mind that kind of interested you, or filmmakers?
Yeah, I actually wrote a lot of them down, actually. So these are kind of a combination of films that, like, I would just say are my all-time favorite, also with the soundtracks. So I've got the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Schindler's List, the Dark Knight trilogy, Drive. I think that's a brilliant film, amazing score, synthwave score. Joker, the one with Joaquin Phoenix.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, Joker?
I know.
Oh man, you got to see it. It's a masterpiece.
I know.
It's it's a brilliant film. I've seen it like 8 times now. It's special. Interstellar, the Full Monty, I Saw the Devil, and even like going back, I used to love movies like The Great Escape and The Magnificent Seven. You know, classic.
They're up in the top 10 on mine. You know, those are the ultimate hard guy movies of all time. You know?
Elmer Bernstein, right? He's a great composer.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. No, outstanding scores all the way around. I mean, they're on another level, you know, just for entertainment value. And there's an era there in the 60s especially where there was a certain combination of actors that just could take over movies. And both in Magnificent Seven and Great Escape, nobody stands out. And they're all unbelievably high-level actors. Steve McQueen and, you know...
Charles Bronson and Yul Brynner. I mean, they're all like legends, right?
They're all legendary. And growing up, I mean, I was growing up through that time. They were, you know, those were stars, and you kind of knew them. But later, as I got older, I started to appreciate what they're doing even more. You know, just blown away by the stage presence was so strong, especially Steve McQueen, who was so understated as an actor. He never overacted; he just played himself pretty much, and just, you know, had fun. You know? Yeah,
he has such a cool persona on screen. Like, he really
and off screen. He really did race and everything else. You know, in Great Escape, one of the great stories is he did his own motorcycle stuff because he was the best guy out there to do it. And in one of the chases, he's also plays one of the Nazis chasing him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because at the end, there's a lot of, like, he's on the bike quite a lot, right? There's a pretty fast
but I'm saying he
stunts.
did double and triple stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure he did the jump. I don't know. Who knows? But there's an interesting documentary about him doing racing, if I remember, that I saw in the last year. That's pretty wild. So Paul Newman was another one that loved to race.
He's another legend as well.
Yeah. Okay. So thinking about music and film. So if you were to kind of think about combinations of filmmakers and composers that kind of came together, that really intrigues me, because when I work with I'm starting to work with the same directors repeatingly, in more than once, and that starts to establish a groove with somebody. Who comes to mind? And I mean, there's some obvious ones out there, but I'm just curious.
I mean, I think my two favorite ones would probably be Peter Jackson and Howard Shore.
Wow.
I mean, their work on the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogy, I think, is just tremendous. It's truly phenomenal.
Well, those are epic.
The beats, the layers, epic, yeah, amazing.
I mean,
and I guess the other one would be Chris. But yeah, the films, yeah. Yeah, I agree. The films, like I think the Lord of the Rings trilogy, like in terms of filmmaking, has got to be up there amongst the best of all time. Like every single aspect of the film, whether it's the acting, the editing, the music, the cinematography. Yeah. I mean, it's special. It's truly special.
Well, it's audacious. I mean, the level of filmmaking is so big, to pull that stuff off. And there's a New Zealand production, right? Because that was where he loved to work, and I don't know if he's from there. He might be.
He is, yeah. He is from New Zealand.
Yeah. It's so funny because I guess they have a great supportive film down there, evidently. Because I mean, there must be a tremendous infrastructure for filmmaking down there for him to pull that off.
Yeah, I think he must have like improved it single-handedly almost with that production.
Yeah, and a lot of that, yikes, scam likely. That person keeps calling me. I was thinking of putting my name as Scam Likely when somebody call people. But yeah, no, I just they're so big of movies, and it seems to me his films go back enough that the CGI wouldn't have done as much when he started some of that stuff as it can now. So some of that stuff had to be more real, I guess. It would have been harder to do.
But I think even to this day, like a lot of the CGI in that trilogy, like say Gollum, for example, I mean, that holds up 20-something years later.
Yeah. No, I mean, they used a lot of that, but I think he also probably had to have a lot of real stuff in there because, again, there were certain things that couldn't be done. Nowadays, you can almost do an entire movie on green screen, and, it's getting harder and harder to tell. I'm not sure that's a great idea, but, You used your setting very well. I like. Well, we'll get into that in a minute here. Let's keep going on this. Okay, those are interesting choices. You didn't say Williams and Spielberg and that.
Spielberg.
I mean, you got to say it. But okay, so Shore, and then what was the other one?
Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer, and that's a special partnership as well.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those films are just some of my all-time favorites,
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, he has an entire style developing. He's Zimmer is really kind of reinvented scoring in a different way. He wants to be known as a lyric composer, but a lot of his stuff is so driving. It's creates ambient textures so often, and then he'll bring out the themes later. So he's an interesting composer. He's got a staff of tons of people working with him. I mean, he what he's done is turned composing into a big thing, as opposed to a composer delivering a score and then sending it out to X, Y, and Z. He's got it all in house now, as far as I can tell.
He's prolific. I mean,
that's why. Because he can, he's a company. You don't just go to see Hans. You're gonna hire his company, and he's gonna have 50 people, helping generate that score and organizing all the tasks that are necessary. That's why he works so much.
Yeah. No, I've heard he's got Santa Monica, I think, right? His company is in, and I've heard a lot about them. Like, very prolific, and a lot of people work there.
There's a Facebook group, Perspectives on Composing or something, and he's on there chatting away occasionally. And
oh, really?
Cool. No, it's interesting. I mean, I've posted things and gotten comments, and all these tremendous composers hang out on that. You have to be kind of invited to that particular thing, and there's no you can't go connecting with these people without or you'll get thrown out. But man, there is a community out there It's pretty amazing. So yeah. Anybody else you can think of as far as what's your favorite film music collaboration, just hands down, as far as, you know, one particular film that just you thought gelled perfectly between music and film?
I would say there's probably two for me that are equal: the Dark Knight trilogy and
Mhm.
Interstellar, and maybe even Lord of the Rings as well. I think
Yeah.
Interstellar, and it's a lot. It feels like it's a controversial choice because I know a lot of people sort of criticize that score, but for me, it's like the way it works with the organs and the ambient music and
Yeah.
the beats. I mean, I think it's really unique, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying about Hans, like kind of
Yeah.
reinventing scoring and like doing things that wouldn't have been done, a certain time ago.
Well, yeah, you compare that to Magnificent Seven or something. It's completely like
Completely, yeah.
alien territory. I agree. Now, I can kind of see that influence in your films for sure, because you have a lot of ambient stuff and definitely kind of a trend going on that. So, although I noticed in Bestowal, the last section got much more active. So that was
Oh, the
interesting to
music.
hear that musically. Yeah, it
Yeah, I
has
don't know
this kind of, yeah.
if it was the right decision,
I liked it.
but
No, I
they
know,
like.
and I will just jump to it. What I love about it is where Mark Timon, right? And
Yeah.
I've never met. Interesting guy though. He's done a lot of stuff. And what was interesting is where that movement starts happening is when there's a timer going on. It's a little bit of a uh, what do we call that? There's a name for it in scoring when you have a kind of a clock ticking music, and it's
Yeah.
like I have 3 minutes left or whatever. That's when he starts pulling that, and I would guess that's what inspired him to do that. Or was that your choice to put something more active?
I think it was a bit of both. I think I remember like sitting down with him like during a spotting session and kind of saying like, this is the end of the film. Like, this is the conclusion. There's got to be like that sort of time for the audience to kind of think that, okay, this is going to end, or you want to have that pacing and the emotion.
Well, I think it was good because again the film it goes along like this for a long time, and then at some point it starts to arc up, and it needs to, because you have to resolve this whole thing, and there has to be a thing. But I thought that was a good choice there. I liked what was going on. And then all of a sudden there was, I'm trying to remember. I've just seen it the once, more orchestral sounds popping in. It wasn't just electronic oriented, ambient, stuff there. But
Yeah, I think he did a great score actually. Mark Timon, very talented guy.
yeah, where'd you meet him?
I met him in LA a few years ago actually. So I lived in Spain for quite a while, and kind of we bonded over that, because he's from Barcelona as well. So that was really cool.
Yeah, no,
And
I
he was
lived in.
really sorry,
Go,
no, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, like, he came to set one of the days, and I kind of told him the kind of film we were trying to make, and we worked on it quite a lot. And he did it. Yeah, it was great. He was great to work with.
Okay, and there's a lot of similar questions here. So, genre-wise, um, I mean, is there a style that kind of comes for in your own films? I mean, you what kind of genres are you drawn to do in your own work?
That's a good question. I guess my initial thing would be to say I like sci-fi's a lot. I like thrillers. I
Yeah.
like horror films. But I think overall, I'm just like in love with the idea of cinema. So I would be, I enjoy doing all different genres. Like I love, for me, it's about the story and kind of what the film's trying to say, through the context of the characters or the music or the writing or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess those are the genres I'm drawn to, but I'm also passionate about other ones as well, like
Hmm.
drama and comedy. I watch a lot of comedy films. I haven't done a comedy yet, but hopefully one day.
I'd like to see what you do with comedy. Will it be comedy or it's tragic comedy? I don't know. Dark comedy is wonderful. I mean, I can see you going into that in a minute, So I'm not sure I see Laurel and Hardy
I,
coming out of you, but who knows?
No, I think my kind of favorite type of comedies like your Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
very cynical, dry humor. You know.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. You know, that when he before his Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David did a special for HBO that was really the proof of concept for that.
I really
And
didn't know that.
it's a funny thing. It's about him after Seinfeld getting they somebody HBO hires him to do a special, and so it's all about him getting ready for the special. And then I won't give it away, but it's it's classic Larry David. But I think that's where he
Thanks.
developed the whole persona. It's interesting to see that before the show even got going. You know, it's just basically following him in reality. You know, running around New York or whatever.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. Very funny.
The brilliant stroke in Curb Your Enthusiasm was when he was brought in by Brooks to do um, the stage show of the producers.
Yeah, I remember that. Was it
That
an
was
early season?
that was classic Seinfeld, where you have show within a show within a show, and they and Brooks and his wife, what's her name, the actress, are in the bar across the street saying how they hired him to fail the show because they wanted out, which is straight out of the producers.
Yeah,
That
he's
was,
funny. I like the Ted Danson episodes are pretty funny. He's got a
yeah,
good rivalry
yeah.
going with him.
And Brooks, of course, hired. Oh God, I had this my last interview. We were talking about it. Incredible composer that did his stuff, a lot of it with him. Brooks did a lot of his own stuff, but really straight writing. And that I was talking about that recently with somebody, but that a lot of times composers will write straight scores against comedy, or vice versa. You could have I don't know, in Joker, are there any times, I'm curious, are there any times where the music is kind of more spoofy as far as comic when the scene is serious? That's a little harder to come by, but it can happen.
I don't think there's that much of that actually. It's a pretty sad score actually.
Really? Yeah.
But I think there might be some moments like that have that kind of what you're saying. But overall, it's a pretty haunting score.
John Morris is the composer who worked with Mel Brooks,
All right.
and he, a lot of those films like Blazing Saddles, I mean, just incredible scoring on those films. Hummy Mann, who teaches scoring in Seattle, where I am, he did a couple of Brooks's things in the last few years and has worked with him. So, yeah, I mean, Brooks is like Chaplin. He still writes a little bit, and he's involved in that, in the musical side of stuff. Have you ever done anything on the musical side yourself?
You mean in terms of scoring or like
Well,
just in
anything,
general?
scoring or songwriting or singing or anything on the
No,
music.
absolutely nothing ever. I mean, I've played a little bit of piano like when I was younger, but no,
Mm,
it's something I'd love to do music wise, but I just don't think I'm. It's just me,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's paint by number now. You can drag and drop. It's a little bit disturbing, actually, how easy it is. I have to resist it because if I have drums and percussion, and I can also do it electronically, and I always have to make that decision. Do I want to take the easy route, or do I want to take the route that's going to get me the better sound? And sometimes the clock is ticking and I have an hour, I don't have time to do that. That's where the electronic stuff, the synth stuff comes in handy for sure. But it's also can be deadly because you just know that there's a better organic sound available, and there's not necessarily a budget for it. So, but I'll throw in organic elements at all times. It can be a triangle, it can be anything. I have a Brazilian berimbau, which is basically like a bow with a piano wire, and it's played in Brazilian music with kind of a rock and a shaker, and you kind of play around with the harmonics on it, that kind of thing. But I'll use it with a bow just to give like a bowing sound of a violin, if I'm using synthetic strings, to give it an edge. And that can kind of work. So, little tricks. It's like CGI for music. in reverse.
That's really cool. Very technical for me. What would you say is like a couple of your favorite scores? Like,
Oh
I know
wow.
it's a broad
Well,
question.
this is wacky. I mean, this is as weird as yours. My there's two great '60s movies that I don't know why I could watch these infinitely. Both of these. One is the Casino Royale, which was this mess of a
Oh, with
film.
David Niven, right?
Yeah, but and it had Burt Bacharach, Look of Love, but and Herb Alpert. There is just something about that score that just holds that film together, and it's falling apart in all the seams. There were four directors involved.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, each section, major people, and it had a cast of thousands and millions in it. But I don't know what it was. That film just grabbed me as a kid, and I still love watching it. It just, especially the theme. The other one from that era that I really love, that I think is one of the greatest scores I've ever heard, is It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And
Yeah, I've seen that, but it's been a long time. I don't think I remember that.
It's epic, and I've seen it at the Cinerama Theater in Seattle, which is no more right now, but seeing it on a huge screen, it's a waltz. And it's it's kind of the Ernest Gold, incredible composer. Da 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 da. Anyway, it's this wonderful in three thing, and it's like a circus. And I'm sure that's why he created it. Just kind of it's a circus of activity in the film, and he just one of the classic definitions of film music is there's not a lot of development in film music. And that's because it tends to be, one theme going on and then a new one, and there's not necessarily a lot of development. On the other hand, the great film composers or the orchestrators behind them, which is more often, would develop these things. You don't always, but you don't, I think as a listener in the audience, you're not paying attention to that because that tends to happen over the background score parts, where the main themes, the Star Wars themes comes in the beginning, the title, but then Williams has 50 other themes going on for everybody else in the movie. And it's so much coming at you. You're not making those connections, but there's a lot of linkages with people and actors and parts and things like that. Anyway, Mad Mad World is just a theme and variations on that. Gone Mad. I mean, so for whatever reason, I don't know why I keep coming back to that. When people ask me what's my favorite score, that's the first movie that comes to my mind, and that includes Great Escape and Magnificent Seven and all those sort of things. In the more recent, trying to think, I don't know. I'll have to think about that of what is a killer score. I mean, I love Danny Elfman's stuff.
He's very good, yeah.
Yeah, and because he's just a character, and his music is like that, and he came from. Kind of like Zimmer, came from popular music background. I think Zimmer was like in a rock band and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was Tangerine Dream or something like that. He was like a synth keyboard player, and then Elfman was in
Boingo Boingo.
Boingo, yeah. So the road to film scoring is really bizarre these days. I mean, it can come from anywhere. You have, of course, who are the modern guys that have been really busy lately? I'm just not thinking.
Michael Giacchino.
No, but that's great. You know what? One of my favorite scores, another one, like I tend to kind of veer to classical stuff a lot. The Adventures of Baron Mukhausen. Terry Gilliam, and oh man, was that we'll see if we can. Here we go. I just got to hit composer. We'll do a little searching here. Michael Kamen. Yeah.
Michael Kamen.
Yeah. So
one of what I think is one of the best scores is Shane, the Western Shane.
Yeah.
I think I love that movie, and the score is pretty emotional.
Yeah, the Star Trek stuff from going back to the beginning, Jerry Goldsmith. You know what? I mean, I have to talk about James Bond. I mean, epic,
pretty cool.
Man. What thematic stuff going on in that. Just incredible scoring on there, and the orchestration, especially John Barry stuff. Man, a lot of flutes.
He did Dancer's Waltz, right? I think. John Barry,
probably.
Dancer's Waltz as
Sure,
well.
yeah, a lot of lyric stuff. I mean, he, and that's, I think, what's amazing about in such an action film that he was able to pull off so many melodies. And that's what I think we're away from these days. Action movies are all about lots of heavy drums and, and stuff like that, which works, but we're kind of losing some of that more subtle stuff. It's like we're moving from the romantic era to the modern era in music. It's kind of a similar kind of a vibe historically, going from Tchaikovsky to Stravinsky.
Do you think that's like a cultural thing, that maybe because we're living in cynical times, like a lot of division and polarization, that maybe that's happening, or is it just like a transition?
I think it's a reflection of technology. Luckily, our devices are not killing us now. Yet.
Yeah.
That's in your movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to see that. I should have filmed that scene. That's what I want to see. What were you talking about? I want to see a telephone reach out with this, grab somebody.
It's pretty cynical.
I had visions of, my phone attacking me. It probably is right now with like 5G, right?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
Like same with cigarettes. People didn't think cigarettes were bad when they first came out.
Yeah. But your question was why? Man, I don't know. I mean, I think the films have changed, and they dictate the scores. But technology is part of it, because you can generate an electronic score a lot easier than an orchestral one. I can generate an electronic score myself, and I don't need to hire anybody. If I do an orchestral score, I can synthesize a lot of it and probably get away with a lot of it. But on a high level, if you're really working for a major company, they're probably going to want to have a full orchestra do it, which means it's got to be a bigger budget film. And now we have hybrids that kind of put all this together. What I have noticed about scoring is that if I have an orchestral score and then I start inserting hybrid electronics, the electronics start to take over the score very quickly. They can be very big. And all of a sudden, all the little subtlety that you put in there starts to disappear very quickly, because you have it's kind of like taking a painting of Monet, or more like Da Vinci, and then just starting to put colors on top, until you don't even see the Mona Lisa anymore. You see 15 colors. That's my experience with it. I have to resist it. I have to be very careful. So.
Yeah, see, for me, like, I'm always trying to learn more about scoring, because like I have visions that I tell the composers I work with, but when it comes to actually understanding music and stuff, it's like very new to me,
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of discussion about how composers should work with filmmakers, and one of the best ideas in the last few years that people are suggesting is for composers not to interact with filmmakers musically, and in other words, in your initial meetings should not be, I think you need an adagio here.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to talk about emotion and the filmmaking terms. Now, on the other hand, you're right. The more the director, producer understands the musical side and understands the vocabulary, the easier the discussion is going to be. And I can help people along with that myself. I mean, I can make demonstrations that this chord has a different sound from this that wants to go to maybe here, and there's a reason for that. It has to do with acoustics and physics and stuff like that, which are technological terms that can be in fact combined with visual and other elements of image, and they can come together. Have you ever seen Kiana Squatsi?
No, I haven't heard of that. Is that a movie?
Man, there's a series of them. Philip Glass, which he's a minimalist composer. Minimalism would be.
Oh, I think I think I actually have.
11 minutes later, whatever.
Did he do the soundtrack for Ad Astra? Because I think I have. listen to him a lot, actually.
Yeah, he's been doing a little more varied stuff, but he's a serious classical composer, and he's been mostly, I mean, historically writing for live or live instruments. He's a percussionist too, so a lot of his stuff has been on mallet instruments and things like that. But these are wild movies, they're experimental films, and I can't remember the name of the filmmaker. Uh, Maybe European, I think. And they're really just visual spectaculars of fast moving things, and the score, it goes on for 90 minutes. Philip Glass was described as minimalism meets the Beatles, because really with Philip Glass it was kind of like big lush major chords, things like that, and it just washes over you. So it's an experience, and one thing I long for. That's why I was drawn to silent films, is where, and I know you did a silent thing. I noticed that. I love that idea because you can bring the music up much more. You're not hiding underneath dialogue, and
Yeah.
I like the marriage of audio and visual more evenly at times. I think that's why 2001 that's really, to me, one of the great films of all time. Even though he pretty much,
I agree completely.
Ironically, he Alex North got fired from that to do the score.
But it works. The score still works. Right?
And Alex North
right
was the first. No, the problem was how he fired him,
really?
Which was tragic. Yeah, Alex North showed up at the premiere not knowing his score was not going to be there.
It's a bit unfair.
Yeah, I'll say Kubrick, whatever. But no, it's genius filmmaking, and you have Blue Danube against spaceships and things like that. I just, that's up there probably a number one in my mind, of just image and music, no matter what. And in the wilder stuff in there is actually classical music. There's nothing that's electronic. That was all done with instruments. Even some of the atmosphere is stuff in there. Anyway, okay.
Special film, yeah.
Yeah.
Really special
film.
Film.
Well, that brings us to the Bestowal. So, how the hell did you make that, and why, and where did that story come from?
I guess the story initially came from kind of philosophical discussions about life and capitalism that I've had with friends over the years, and I guess I'm one of those deep thinkers that maybe thinks too much, and it affects my sleep and stuff. But I guess it's just who I am. But yeah, so I mean, I kind of just one day said, so actually I should go back even further. So after Just One Drink, I was trying to pitch a couple of, bigger budget thriller films, and it was difficult to get funding. Hollywood, funding's, a nightmare. So I kind of said, I really want to do a feature, but how am I going to do this? And I thought, okay, if I just make a movie with two people filmed in a house, it'll be a lot easier to fund than with with bigger cast or different locations and special effects and stuff. So I kind of sat down and I started writing this dialogue with these two people, and it flowed pretty well. I was pretty happy with what I was writing. A lot of it were ideas that I'd already thought about for many years. So then, I guess that was kind of what started the film, and I was lucky it did pretty well. So.
I mean, I'm just intrigued on the process of because I'm trying to write a script right now, and dialogue scares me more than anything. I can write music all day, but the idea of dialogue is just, and you are a master of that. You figured that one out. Because
thanks. I'm not really, but yeah, I mean, I think the dialogue, I think it was Jonathan Nolan said this, you have to just sometimes I feel like I write a lot of rubbish. A lot of the first drafts are rubbish, but you just keep on. Yeah. So I mean, I guess my advice would just be, even if you think it's bad, just write and write and write, and then kind of go back and edit it, even if it's 100 times. I've done that.
Oh, I've already been. Yeah, I'm not with you. That's what I've always heard, is just get through it. Yeah. So no, but it works, and I think it's an audacious script. It's not just, let's talk about sports. It's let's try the answer the universe. What is the universe and why are we here? I mean, that took some imagination. Did you do research on that, or did you just kind of more stream of consciousness based on experience?
Probably a bit of both. Like I think a lot of it was stream of consciousness. I guess a lot of the scientific concepts, like I did my best to research, the different dimensions, and a lot of it was inspired by 2001 and Interstellar, probably two of the biggest. And then even My Dinner with Andre, like I studied that film to kind of see how they made like a dialogue film flow so well for a full feature.
Yeah. No, I get you. I like it's a 4-act. So I was thinking it was going to be a 3. That was more. Well, I'd call it a 3-act and a coda.
Yeah, 3-act and an epilogue, right? Is that what coda is?
Yeah. In music, a coda is kind of the ending, the latest ending. If there's a wonderful composer, Peter Schickele. He created PDQ Bach, one of Bach's lesser known brothers or sons or something, and it's really spoofy music. And he did a bunch of records in the 70s and 80s, and they were like satires on classical music. And one of them was Beethoven's Fifth Symphony for the masses, and it's and with kind of sports commentary. So you're here, and here comes the first theme. Wait a minute, they're actually, it's just wonderful. But it'll actually teach you a lot about music composition. That's the way I love teaching. Just turn everything into a joke.
Yeah, I think looking at life itself with humor is pretty important, because life can be pretty sad if you don't.
Yeah. Well, coming from you, because your films are not comedies. No, I was happy to see somebody smile at some point in that. That was good to see. And it ends on kind of a nice note. But you'll appreciate this Quiet Earth, the ending of that, because I think you're gonna see a parallel there.
Actually, I'll definitely see that. Even what is it, The Man from Earth? I think. Right?
No, not The Man from Earth. That's David Bowie. No, this is
there's an independent film actually called The Man from Earth. It's like a dialogue based thing.
Oh, okay.
But no, I've written that down. What you said. This Quiet Earth.
This Quiet.
I'm definitely going to see.
Right. Yeah. No, because the characters in it, as you go through the film, they become much more integral to the plot than you'd think. By the end, there's, it's like did something happened and these guys just lucked out or didn't luck out. But then as it goes through it, you're kind of going, wow. There's a linchpin aspect to this where one of the main characters is the reason for what's going on. And in your film, in your story, it's not just somebody having an issue and facing death and all the rest of it, but he becomes something much more important in the universe. I mean, you got a lot going on in that story. I mean, it's not light.
Thank you. Yeah, I was lucky with the actors. I think they're very talented.
Where'd you find them? I looked them up. They did quite a few films. They've done some work.
Yeah, I think Sharmita's in the new American Crime Story about Bill Clinton right now. She's
really?
She's got a role in that. And so I met her I think before we did the movie, like a year ago. So I was kind of friends with her. And even though I had, I did an audition, I did a breakdown services. I put a casting, I was friends with this. So I said, do you want to try out for this? You could be good for it. And she did a really good audition. And then I had her come in for a callback with Sam, who I actually got through Actors Access. So he's a very talented actor as well. Just lucky to find him.
And when you first encounter him in the film, I'm thinking, wow, this is an interesting choice. He has a very everyman look in that film in the beginning, just like, oh, it's just a guy.
Yeah.
And then he's got to go through this thing and whoa. And and you have an interesting ethnic choice with her, in that you resisted, just setting it up. You went for something much more interesting, and that helps a lot, I think, because it's a worldly view of what's going on. Because he's definitely just kind of the American guy, He's a nothing,
He's I think he's got a striking kind of vibe. He's actually very versatile. He's done a lot of. There's a
Oh,
lot
I
of
don't mean him as
different.
a person. I just mean the
Oh yeah,
character in there is very, in the beginning. Don't get me
oh
wrong.
yeah.
He's a wonderful actor. No, I'm just saying it's very
Oh, the
understated
character.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
You're kind of wondering why are we even following this guy? But he has to go through a
Yeah. No, I kind of
mental
know what you mean
anguish.
because I think I kind of maybe made him a little cliched at the start.
That's
Kind of like
okay. I think that
sad
helps. I really think
sort
that
of.
helps. You know. No, that's cool. I had a feeling that's kind of why you shot it the way you did. You tried to make it. I mean, it's an interesting storytelling because the action has to take place in the audience.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. It probably actually, have you thought about doing it as a stage
Yeah, I
presentation
have
live?
quite a lot actually. Like it's something I want to do, like do it
That
as a
makes a lot
play.
of sense. Actually, I think it would work really well. Yeah.
Um,
Huh. Thinking about it, you could have sound design on it and a whole bit if you wanted. Yeah.
yeah, no, it could definitely work as a play because I mean I think that's one of the things a lot of critics wrote about. This kind of feels like a play, right? There's also not much movement as well. It's like very, you know,
Yeah.
it's been polarizing. Like a lot of people have really disliked it, and a lot of people absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
So
Well, you have to prepare yourself for that kind of a film, like my Night Dinner with Andre, same sort of a thing. It's not, especially in this uh, audience time where everything is action oriented. How many car chases per minute? you know, this is the antithesis of that film.
yeah, this is not for this is like goes against our short attention spans, right? We have these
It really
days.
does, but that's kind of the point of the story too. Kind of
Yeah,
saying, that people don't talk to each other. Well, this is people talking to each other, and getting really deep about it. So, for sure. So, what are you currently working on right now?
so I'm currently in post production with a short film called The Tortured Soul. I actually met with my composer last week, and she's
Mm-hmm.
working on like some music right now. So that's kind of like a short revenge thriller film.
Mm-hmm.
We cast a pretty good actress called Bianca Stan. She's done a few things in Hong Kong, and she kind of it's kind of like the Bestowal in that it's all dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like she kind of confronts a serial killer that killed her husband a few years ago, and it's actually inspired by the Korean film I Saw the Devil. I don't know if you've seen that. It's actually got a great
Oh,
soundtrack. The guy, I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's Moog, Mowg. He's a great composer. Does a lot of
huh.
great Korean films.
Wow. Who's the composer you're working with on this?
There's a girl called Tracy Lamb.
Mm, yeah.
So she's really she's very talented. So
She in
um,
L.A. Nearby.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
um,
there's just a few composers in L.A.
just a few. Yeah,
I've been to some of the Los Angeles Scoring Academy events where they'll have great composers, Bear McCreary and people like that, do talks. A lot of them in virtual. Really great place to kind of learn about scores. That
he's
that
pretty
might be
big.
something for you to hang at or watch. There, if you want to learn more about that aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. You're in Seattle, you said, right?
I'm in
Yeah,
Seattle. Yeah, yeah. We have a Seattle
nice.
Composers Alliance up here too. We've been doing events and stuff like that, and so similar to what LA does. Um, and it goes back 20 years here. So, and I've been in scoring for about 20 years now myself. As I got through getting music in films through placements, and then that drew me into scoring. And as technology caught up, using Logic, I could score to picture much easier now. So it's so democratic now that anybody can do it. I'll score your film. Do you know how to play any instrument? No, you don't need to. Just throw a bunch of loops or whatever on there. That's not necessarily always legal, but it can be done. It's paint by number sort of thing, as you can with filmmaking. But it doesn't necessarily guarantee very great stuff. But it can do the job. you know.
Yeah, filmmaking in general is hard. I think the whole process, the whole industry, the business side of it, it's a very challenging career profession.
Well, you figured out some of it. I mean, I think the fact that you were able to, create a feature, get distribution, and successfully have a film, go from A to B. That's always impressive, and I've learned about that, myself now. So I was just a composer up to a few years ago, and then I got involved in this film as the year turns and became a producer and learned all about all this stuff. So it's been an eye-opener. And now I have tremendous respect for filmmakers and directors, realizing, oh yeah, they got to deal with this damn film when it's done. We tend to, when we're just working on a film, you're kind of done with it and figuring, okay, when's it going to come out? When's it going to be premiered? When's the next festival? Whatever. And the poor filmmaker is going, you have no idea. The war that I'm in right now, trying to secure all these things after the film's even done.
Yeah, because getting a film out there is it's really hard, right? It takes months and months, a lot of work, a lot of rejection. You'll get rejects from a lot of festivals.
Well, I know the festival circuit by heart now, and I teach people how to do it now. So,
do you use Film Freeway?
I do, and as the year turns, wound up being in 122 film festivals. So,
how did you manage that? That's insane. That's really cool.
It is. Well, my executive producer helped with this and sponsored a lot of that. We learned a lot of tricks. There's a lot of discount structure on Film Freeway to learn about. You can get a lot. I mean, if you promote a little bit, do a little bit of their promotion, then the festivals come to you, and you have a much better shot of getting selected if somebody tracks you down and says, "Hey, I'm interested in." In fact, this last one I'm doing right now, they called me. The Silicon Beach. Originally I had submitted to Marina Del Rey, and they said, well, we can't get into that, but we have some other ones, and we'd love to screen the film there. So, you start realizing that festivals are just people running these things, and get to know the people, and then all of a sudden your experience is very different. And I've had some superb experiences. We had a festival out here, West Sound Film Festival. In fact, my last interview was a guy who was out here from South Carolina, and it was.
I almost came to that festival.
That is honestly one of the top festivals I've ever been to. It's not like a big thing, but it was in this small town. You have to kind of take a ferry over.
Bremerton, right?
Bremerton, yeah, it's a Navy town, and they just did such a wonderful job. A little Sunday brunch and just took care of everybody. Everybody got a certificate. I mean, I was totally impressed.
I think Amy is the lady, right?
Yeah. And I've been to festivals where there was nothing. You get treated like nothing.
Yeah, no, it's you're right. But no, actually, my short film just played it. That's how I know about it. The Santa Claus animation film. It just played at West Sound.
Oh, it was there. Wow. Okay. I got to figure out how to see that. I'll try and take a look at that. No, that's a wonderful one. The Myrtle Beach Festival is a really good one. A lot of the best ones are run by filmmakers.
Yeah, because they can empathize with how tough it is, right? And
they know exactly what it's about. Yeah. So, I think the ones that do well, that they seem to make sure there's networking events, and that there's, because if you're going to a festival as a filmmaker, the whole point is to meet other filmmakers. You can sit and watch your movie for 20 minutes or an hour or whatever, and that's it's nice to see it in a theater and a few other people are going to see it, but what you really want to do is get to know other people and learn. To me, that's the point of going to a festival. And the virtual ones have actually been pretty good that I've been part of.
I agree. I've been a part of a few virtual ones, and they've been, like Minville Short Film Festival. I think is that in Washington? No, it's in Oregon.
Oregon, yeah.
But yeah, virtual ones work during the pandemic. It's been.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get the same experience watching them, but what I get concerned about with no matter where it is as a composer is the sound going to be any good? And all it takes is to share a Zoom without hitting share computer sound, and all of a sudden your score sounds like crud. And you're like, oh great, and that can happen in a theater. If the DCP doesn't run well or something screws up in there. So there's a lot of traps trying to make this stuff work. Anyway, well, I think the Chinese theater should be an interesting experience for me.
Yeah, I think I've been to the Egyptian one, but I've been in I've been to, but I haven't actually seen a film there.
Well, the Chinese,
it's amazing.
The one with the handprints,
classic
concrete, and that's where all the premieres were. For the great eras of films in the 30s and 40s, and Douglas
Speaking of
Fairbanks.
Yeah, he was a legend. I just watched The Mummy yesterday, the original one with Boris Karloff.
I'll send you a link to the other. So basically, Richard Lyford is the person who did As the Earth Turns, and the documentary he's the subject of that, and the biopic that I'm writing. And a DVD is out of all these things, and on there are some shorts, some fragments that started the whole thing, and one of them is kind of a mummy film. And you got to understand that what makes this spectacular is Richard Lyford was 20 when he made his 9th film.
He's 20 years old. Wow.
Yes, with 60 millimeter.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, you'll appreciate that. Again, a little silent film that I scored. So, okay. Let's see what else. So what's your goal for the next 6 months?
My goal is to hopefully get this Bollywood Hollywood film funded. It's a pretty ambitious goal, but I'll try my best.
When I think Bollywood, I'm always thinking a musical sequence. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're pretty famous for musicals, but yeah, this is a Hollywood film, but the goal is to just cast a Bollywood actress in the film.
Okay, I got it.
To have like a diverse, to be able to release the film in India as well.
And right. And what is a smart move? And so what's the genre of that?
So this is like a psychological thriller / horror.
Right.
It's about like a young woman who kind of loses everything, and she really becomes disturbed and kind of goes on a revenge spree.
Well, I think you should put a musical number in there.
No, there's a musical number in it.
All right, there we go. I knew it.
Like a kind of a dance track in a club.
Absolutely, yeah. What was the show that was on a few years ago that took place in India? Outsourced. Was that? It was about getting. It was about getting outsourced. There was Americans going to India working for a tech company and having to deal with street food and stuff like that.
I heard it was pretty funny.
It was hilarious. I love that show. It was great. Yeah, it got me a whole nother look at that. And it was really warm. I mean, it had a lot of funny comedy in it. Yeah, no, it was different. But it felt like a little bit eye-opening of what was going on. So, anyway. Any final thoughts?
No, I mean, I guess just thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I appreciate you watching the films. It means a lot.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you, folks. And hopefully we will see you next time.
Thank you, Ed. We'll be in touch for sure. Take care. Bye-bye.